Dave Thomas, and today I am building the Prospector model rocket kit from Estes. This is another in their recently released line of E2X kits, easy to assemble, that have just come out in 2025. And these are great kits if you have limited time, so they're especially good if you're doing a group activity with a school or scouting or something like this, because you can build this kit in less than an hour and it's ready to go on the launch pad. So let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, let's find the instructions and the parts list here. So, first of all, we have the pre-colored body tube, and this has the launch lug and the shock cord already installed. That's going to make things really quick to put together. Alright, we have a nose cone, some self-adhesive decals, and then we've got a small parts package here, and this has got the rest of the parts. So this clear thing here is the base of the nose cone. We've got the fin can, the motor retainer, fins, and parachute. And this clear reinforcement is right there. Okay, so it looks like we have everything. I'm going to clear this away and we will get started. Our first task is to put the fin can together, and they show using some tube type plastic cement. You can also use a brush on plastic cement for this. So I'm going to use this brush on cement here. This has got a little bit of viscosity to it. Alright, but I like this because you have more control over it than you do with tube type. Alright, we're going to make sure we hit all those little pegs and the connecting edges here. Don't get too much on, especially around the threads, but we do want them glued together. Alright, and then we're going to match these together, put the little holes in the little pegs there. Alright, now I'm going to hold this for about 30 seconds and then set it aside to dry, and we'll continue building when I get back. While the fin can glue is solidifying, I'm going to move us along here to first of all this step. So we need this little square reinforcement sticker here, this thing right here, and the body tube, and this is going to go just right over this and provide some additional reinforcement for the glue that's already on it. So simply take this off, handle it by the edges as much as you can, and we want to center this both lengthwise and widthwise, or get close to it. Alright, so start, as long as it's fairly straight there, we're going to just squeeze down along the middle so it gets on the top there. And then instead of just wrapping this, I'm going to take a fingernail and get it into the corner first. So along the edge there. I'm going to do that on both sides. And this has got a lot of extruded glue on it, so if it's not going on quite straight, that's why it's doing it. Don't worry about it. Alright, and then we're going to smooth this out toward the sides. Okay, and the idea here is it'll trap less air if we're lucky. Okay, that can be set aside once more. Now for our nose cone, as I mentioned, the base is in the small parts package here. And we need to glue this in. Alright, so this is down here at the nose cone assembly stage. Again, you can use either the tube type or a viscous brush on cement. The really runny brush on cement doesn't work as well with this. So we're just going to run that around just inside the edge there. Alright, we're going to place this in, twist it back and forth a few times to seat it in the glue. And now we're going to hold this for about 30 seconds and then set it aside to dry. So when we come back, we'll be ready. coming back to our fin can, we're now going to apply the fins. And you don't need to cement these in place. They'll be held in place by friction and by the motor retaining nut that goes on here. You can put these on in any order. So simply take the thick parts here, put those into the holes, and push it forward. Okay, now if you're meeting a lot of resistance, you might want to take a file or a nail file like this and just give it a little bit of filing there. It's probably just a little bit of plastic that's getting in the way. You can also just try a different slot and see if it fits better there. Okay, so try this again. Still pretty resistant. Alright, let's see if one of the others fit better here. It's just tight. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and file these a little more. It just does not want to go into place there. Okay, here I'm checking the length to make sure that it does actually have the proper length. It just is going to be difficult. Alright, what I'm using here is just a nail file, disposable type ones here. Okay, that's almost there. I'm going to see if I can use the motor retaining nut to kind of leverage that into position. There we go. Okay, so that did work. Alright, let's see how the other ones go. Okay, that seems to be a good way to get them on. Just be careful doing it. As you're doing it, if you see your seam split at any time, stop and let it dry some more. Oop, like I just did there. Okay, so that's all on. Now what I was going to suggest next is you don't need to glue these, but if you want to, you can run glue right along the seams there. As tight as they are, they really don't need it. I'm going to show you here just in case you want to do this. So now I'm using a very viscous formulation. So this is almost like water in its viscosity. And we just run that along these seams. And between the narrow brush and capillary action, it will draw that inside. And you just do this for every fin. If you happen to get a little bit too much on, it goes outside or something like that, just let it dry. Don't try and wipe it. This plastic cement actually dries very clear and not very noticeably. Do be careful that you don't get it on the threads. I'm going to let this dry for just a few minutes, and then we'll attach it to the body tube. A few minutes have passed, and we're now ready to attach the fin can to the body tube. Now for this one, I recommend you use either the tube type cement or a gel type super glue. Don't use the brush on cements for this because they tend to just absorb into the cardboard. The same thing for regular viscosity super glue, it just tends to absorb in, it doesn't bind well. But the gel stuff is good for uniting two dissimilar surfaces. So in this case we've got plastic on one side, cardboard on the other. So I'm going to use the super glue gel. Again, you can use just the tube type plastic cement like this type. Alright, and so I'm just going to run a bead of this all the way around just inside the edge. Get down a little too low. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to insert this, and when I get it to where I want to make sure that the launch lug is in between two of the fins. It doesn't matter which two, you can use whatever ones you want, but you don't want that in line with a fin. Okay, so it should be like this. I'm going to put it in between the two black fins. I'm just going to rotate this back and forth as I go, and then just do a final alignment here at the end. Alright, and that's close enough to between them. I think they put that launch lug on just slightly crooked. It'll still fly. Okay, we'll set that aside for another moment. Alright, now they have us putting the decals on before everything else. I like to put the decals on absolutely last. So the next thing we're going to do here is assemble the parachute. The parachute comes in its own little bag here, and we'll go ahead and carefully open that. Don't cut the parachute or the shroud lines. Now in the instructions they have us tie the parachute directly to the nose cone. Those of you who have been regular visitors to my channel will by now have heard this many times. I don't like to tie parachutes to nose cones. Instead, I like to use a snap swivel that allows me to change them out rapidly and easily. Regardless of which way you want to do this, the first thing we want to do is simply spread this out. All right, and then gather all of these shroud line loops. There we go. Alright, so take the loops and gather them on one finger, usually of your dominant hand, and then stop vibrating the camera. Alright, with your other hand hold the middle of the parachute sheet, and then you can adjust the parachute shroud lines back and forth here a little bit. So I can twist and turn them here. I can also move where the parachute sheet is and have the corners move relative to each other. What we want is for all of the corners to be down at about the same level, which we have here. All right. Now if you're going to use the direct tie-on method, then you're going to take these loops that you had around your finger, stick those through the eyelet of the nose cone. All right, and it's already not wanting to cooperate. There we go. Okay, draw that back out. Here you can recheck. Alright, so grab your parachute again, let the nose cone hang there. And now you can do one of two things. You can take the nose cone and pass it through the loops like that and pull it down. Or you can take the whole parachute, pass it through the loops like that and pull it down. Alright, so either way, they'll tie it directly onto the nose cone. Alright, I'm not going to do that. If you want to do it my way, you're going to do this just as you did before. So I've lost my loops there, so I'm going to go ahead and start from the beginning. Okay, so once again, find a spot where all the shroud lines are the same length, all of the corners are at the same level there. these you can get just about any place you can find fishing supplies. And the size doesn't matter as long as the snap part here will attach to the eyelet of the nose cone and move freely without hanging up. Okay, so here, like we did before, I'm going to get those loops really tiny, and I'm going to stick them through the swivel end, not the snap end here, but the swivel end. All right, once more, if you need to, you can check your shroud line length. Make sure they haven't moved. All right, and when you've got that where you want it, now I'm going to take the whole snap swivel, pass it through the loops, pull the loops down, and I'm going to pull the whole thing tight. All right, you can recheck again. All right, it moved a little bit, but not enough for me to worry about. All right, if you do want to redo it, you can simply loosen the knot here and try again. Once you've got that where you want it, and this is going to be true of both the snap swivel and the direct tie-on method, is go ahead and put a little dab of either wood glue or white glue right on that knot. And that will keep it from coming undone. All right, just a little tiny amount there. Okay, now I'm going to tie the shock cord to the nose cone here. Also using a double knot. I say also, as I just built another kit, but you haven't seen that yet. Alright, and then pull this from all directions. Once you've got that tightened down, just like we did on the shroud lines, we can put a little dab of glue just right on that knot so it doesn't come out of place. Now don't use any type of plastic cement or super glue here, as that will destroy the rubber. And then I'm going to cut back this free end to about 1/4 inch or about 5 to 6 millimeters there, so it doesn't get hung up in between the body tube and the nose cone shoulder. Now to assemble everything, we just need to now attach our snap swivel. Alright, now if you didn't use the snap swivel, the parachute's already attached at this point. Alright, just clip that into place. Alright, and note that it does move freely around, which is what we want. We don't necessarily want it tangled up in the shock cord. Okay, now if you're actually prepping this for flight, add about 3 sheets of recovering wadding, or the equivalent of some other recovery safety device in there, dog bar for even a little bit of Nomex. Alright, and then on our parachute here, my new favorite way of folding these is to move it so that the corners all line up here. So I've got the 2 middle corners there, and then a little bit off camera here I've got the side corners. And now I'm going to take one of the side corners, alright, and fold the parachute so that it's now over the middle corners now. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side, fold it over. Now I have all my corners lined up, and my parachute looks kind of like a spaceship. All right, now I'm going to find about the midway point on the shroud lines, and I'll pull that up onto the parachute here. All right, then I'm going to take one side and fold it over, other side fold it over, so now we've got the spike. I'm going to take the point, fold it down like this, and I'm going to fold the edges over like that, so now I've got a little cylinder. Okay. Now, again, if you are prepping for flight, stick your wadding in now, and then just stuff in the shock cord. This has got a nice long elastic shock cord. I like to see that. All right, and then go ahead and put in your folded parachute, and this should just slide right down. If it's encountering resistance, pull it out, try again, make sure there's nothing in the way. Okay, and then we'll put the nose cone on. And now I'm going to turn this upside down and shake it, whoop, which tells me it's too loose. Alright, now if it's too tight, if it really just does not want to come out again, usually that means you've got a piece of the shock cord caught in there. But if you, for some reason, just have a really thick nose cone, use some 100 grit sandpaper and just sand around the shoulder a little bit until it fits. Now in this case I need to add a little bit of masking tape. Okay, and you don't necessarily need a whole circumference here. I'm going to start with about a half a circumference. Oops, prefer it a little straighter there. Let's try that again. Okay, so now when I put this in, okay, I turn this down, do a shake test. It's not coming out, all right, but I can still pull it out freely. Now keep in mind, changes in temperature and humidity can change not so much the nose cone, but the body tube here. And so what might be a good fit right now, when I get out on the launch field and maybe it's the middle of summer, it might be too tight. Or if it go into colder weather, it might get too loose. Okay, so always check this before flight, regardless of what you did right now. Okay, and then our last step here is to put on the motor retainer. All right, so structurally this is done. The last part then is to add our decals here. Now I'm going to go wash my hands thoroughly so that I have fewer fingerprints and fewer skin oils to interfere with the adhesive on my decals. I've washed my hands, and now I'm going to refer both to the package insert here and the instructions for the suggested placement of decals. Okay. Now you don't have to do this, you don't need the decals at all. They're not required for flight whatsoever. You can use other decals if you would like to do that. Or you can go with the ones here, use as many or as few as you'd like. Alright, so I'm going to turn this around. And I'm going to put, let's see, what do we got? So we've got these decals here, these 3 stripes, and those are meant to go partially around the rocket there. Now for the main Prospector decal, I plan to put that on the opposite side of the launch lug. Alright. Now, I'm also wondering here though, alright, those will go, they will clear the launch lug if we need to do that. Okay, now these are self-adhesive and they usually stick really well, so you have to be careful when you're doing your initial placement here. Alright, so I'm going to go, I'm doing the rocket opposite the launch lug here, so in line with my yellow fin in my case. I'm just going to lightly touch that down initially and check my placement. Okay, and the idea here is for these 3 stripes to wrap around, but they won't cover the Prospector decal there. So that looks pretty straight and in about the right place. So if you got it where you want it, go ahead and now smooth it from the middle and then go out to the edges. So, there's my finished Prospector. This whole build took less than an hour. Now I would recommend, excuse me, I got a bit of a cold here. I do recommend that you let this, let all the glue continue drying for about 15 more minutes just to make sure it's all solid before you try and launch it. So have a great flight and a safe recovery, and please stay tuned for more of my videos.